Jack, a young writer, was driving his car along a desolate mountain road, far from the city's clamor. The night was deep, and the surroundings were eerily silent. Suddenly, he spotted a woman by the roadside, her figure illuminated by the car's headlights. She wore a red dress, and her presence was undeniably mysterious. She asked for a lift. Jack hesitated, but ultimately agreed. The woman introduced herself as Sarah. As they drove, Sarah began to tell strange and unsettling stories, stirring an unfamiliar dread within Jack. "Jack," she asked, her eyes gleaming in the darkness, "have you ever heard of an abandoned mansion along this road?" Rumor has it, a horrific incident occurred there. Years ago, a wealthy man murdered his wife and concealed her within the mansion walls. No one knows why, but her spirit is said to still wander the halls. Jack chuckled slightly, though Sarah's chilling tone gave him an uneasy feeling. "Do you believe in such things, Sarah?" Jack inquired. "I don't know, Jack," Sarah replied, her gaze fixed on the trees passing by. "But I do know there are things beyond our understanding." Sarah continued her tales, weaving a narrative of the abandoned mansion's dark history. She spoke of the man, Edward, a reclusive figure known for his wealth and cold demeanor. His wife, Eleanor, a vibrant artist, had vanished without a trace, and the mansion itself seemed to hold its breath in mourning. Jack listened, his grip tightening on the steering wheel, the road twisting and turning through the dense forest. "They say Edward sealed her within the walls," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the engine. "Her paintings, her spirit, trapped within those cold stones. Some claim on nights like these, you can still hear her cries, her brushstrokes echoing through the empty rooms." Jack glanced at Sarah, her face illuminated. By the dashboard lights, her expression unreadable. "And what happened to Edward?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "He simply disappeared," Sarah replied, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Vanished into thin air, leaving behind only whispers and shadows. The mansion became a tomb, a monument to his crime." The air in the car grew heavy, charged with an unseen tension. Jack felt a chill crawl down his spine, a sense of unease that had nothing to do with the cool night air. The stories Sarah told were more than just tales. They were a palpable presence, a darkness that seemed to seep into the very fabric of the journey. As they rounded a sharp bend, Sarah pointed into the darkness. "There," she said, her voice a low, almost hypnotic murmur. "The mansion." Jack slowed the car, his headlights cutting through the thick fog that clung to the road. The silhouette of a grand yet decaying structure loomed in the distance, its windows like vacant eyes staring into the night. Jack parked the car at the foot of the overgrown driveway, the engine's hum dying into an unsettling silence. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" he asked, his voice betraying his unease. "We must see it," Sarah replied, her eyes fixed on the mansion. "We must understand." She stepped out of the car and Jack followed, a sense of dread pulling him forward. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. The mansion stood before them, a monument to forgotten secrets. They walked up the crumbling stone steps, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the silence. The heavy oak doors creaked open as Sarah pushed them, revealing a dark, cavernous hall. Inside, dust motes danced in the faint moonlight filtering through the grimy windows. The air was cold, heavy with a sense of lingering sorrow. "This place," Jack began, his voice trailing off. He felt a presence, an unseen weight that pressed down on him. Sarah moved deeper into the hall, her red dress a stark contrast to the shadows. "It's as if time stopped here," she whispered, her voice echoing through the empty rooms. "As if the past is still alive." Sarah led Jack through the labyrinthine corridors, her footsteps silent on the dusty floors. They reached a hidden room, tucked away behind a false wall, its entrance concealed by a faded tapestry. Inside, a single beam of moonlight illuminated a wooden chest. Sarah opened it, revealing a collection of old journals and sketches. "Eleanor's journals," Sarah said, her voice filled with a strange intensity. Her final words, her last moments. Jack picked up a journal, its pages brittle with age. He began to read, his eyes tracing the faded ink. The entries spoke of fear, of a growing darkness, of a husband consumed by jealousy and madness. "He trapped her here," Jack whispered, his voice trembling. "He painted over her art, her life, until there was nothing left." Sarah turned to him, her eyes glowing in the dim light. He thought he could erase her, but he was wrong. Her spirit remains bound to this place, seeking justice. A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Jack felt a cold hand brush against his arm. "She wants us to find him," Sarah said, her voice a low, urgent whisper. "To find his descendants, to make them pay for his sins." Jack looked at Sarah, her face now a mask of cold determination. He realized then, with a chilling certainty, that Sarah was not just a traveler. She was a vessel, a conduit for Eleanor's vengeful spirit. Jack, now understanding the true nature of Sarah's presence, felt a mix of fear and a strange sense of obligation. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "We find them," Sarah responded, her voice resonating with an otherworldly chill. "We follow the threads of his bloodline. The journals hold clues, names, dates, places. We will expose their lineage, reveal the darkness that stains their history." They spent the rest of the night deciphering the journals, piecing together the fragmented history of Edward's descendants. The trail led them through old records, forgotten towns, and hidden family secrets. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, they had a list, a map of their journey. "We leave now," Sarah said, her form beginning to shimmer, to fade into the growing light. "My purpose here is done. You are now the vessel, Jack. You carry the weight of justice." Jack watched as Sarah's form dissolved, leaving behind only the lingering chill and the weight of her words. He stepped out of the mansion, the rising sun casting long, eerie shadows. The house stood silent, a monument to a past that refused to stay buried. He knew what he had to do. He started the car, the engine roaring to life, and drove away, leaving the abandoned mansion behind. The road stretched before him, a path into the unknown. He was no longer just a writer. He was a seeker, a vessel of vengeance, bound to a journey that would lead him into the darkest corners of a family's history. He carried the journals, and he carried the cold, unyielding promise of justice. And he knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that Eleanor's story was far from over. It had just begun,